if you step outside of his thought process, if you question him publicly, then he will remove you from his inner circle. And he will not even think twice about lambasting you publicly. They're going to have to realize that they still will be answering to President Trump in the end, even though the others may have more money and maybe a little bit more clout. But in the end, that's not how President Trump functions.
Hi, I'm Jo Crawford and welcome to Times Radio's Trump Report. Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos all came to blows with Trump in his last term in office. But on Monday, these past feuds seemed to be distant memories as these tech tycoons were sat on one of the most exclusive rows at Trump's inauguration. So what does this era of the Trump tech tycoon bromance mean for America? And how long will it last? To discuss this, I'm joined by Amy Tarkanian, Republican strategist and former chairwoman of the Nevada Republican Party. Thank you for joining me on the Trump Report today.
Thank you for having me.
So you were the former chair of the Nevada Republican Party, but since then you said Donald Trump's rhetoric is dangerous. He's brainwashing people by questioning the validity of election results. How would you compare how you felt in 2017 to now?
Sure. Well, I'm hoping that he's learned a really good, hard lesson from his first term to his second. And what's bringing me a little bit of hope is the fact that he prepared well in advance to him taking the oath for office the second go around. So he already met with his policy advisors to have his executive orders ready to go within the first hour. Of him becoming the president once again. And he already had his cabinet nominees also ready to go and do their due diligence by trying to sell themselves to the members of the Senate so that way confirmation hearings can proceed much faster than they did the first go around. So he has a very lengthy to-do list to get accomplished. And the fact that he's wasting no time, you don't have to agree with 100% of everything that he's trying to move forward. But what happens is with executive actions, any president that comes in can rescind those and can move forward with their own. And because they are not put into law by Congress. So we're having a bit of a ping pong effect where Biden came in, rescinded a number of his executive actions from the first term, and now he's putting them back into place, but making them more enticing and with improvements.
And as we saw at Trump's inauguration, there was this row of tech billionaires in very exclusive seating. It was very close to the president. And in the past, we've seen Musk, Bezos, Zuckerberg, they've all criticized Trump in different ways. So I want to hear from you. Do you think that Trump is trying to appease these billionaires, or are these tech billionaires trying to win favor from the president? Is it a bit of both?
I think it's a little bit of give and take, but let's be honest here. President Trump is known for being quite bullish, very brash, very harsh with his verbal lashings if someone is to step out of line or go against him and question whatever his next move may or may not be. And I think the fact that he won so handily puts a lot of these individuals on notice. And you mentioned Mark Zuckerberg, for example. Facebook was atrocious to him in the first campaign. And they spent millions of dollars pushing against him and pushing also for down ticket Democrats. And so I think that Mark, whether if he's being genuine or disingenuous because he fears the wrath of the possible retaliation, is now on board. And as somebody who has been a lifelong Republican, such as myself, and have not always agreed with President Trump, as you mentioned in the opening, I found it a little difficult to see in the Capitol Rotunda when there was limited seating for members of Congress and Senate and governors to attend. Those who are maybe lifelong Republicans who were very loyal and working, tirelessly to help put Republicans in office. And you see billionaires, tech giants that were instead given those seats who treated him quite terribly from the beginning. And not just him, but a number of other Republican candidates as well. So that was a little bit of a bittersweet moment. I understand, I guess, at a business perspective, it does send a very strong message, though, to not just America businesses overall and the tech industry overall, but it sends to the entire world that he does have those who are the most wealthy, those who are probably some of the brightest that we have to offer now supporting him.
And in Biden's farewell speech, he called this oligarchy of extreme wealth that was taking shape within American politics, which he said or claimed was threatening American democracy, basic rights, freedoms. What did you make of that statement? It's quite, it's quite a strong statement to make.
It is, and I find it to be quite hypocritical because it's public knowledge. You can go and look through the FEC reports and see who is donated to which campaigns, for the most part, unless it's a third party organization where you have unlimited without having to say who it's coming from. But for the most part, you are able to see who has supported financially which candidates. And Democrats historically have had the most millionaires and billionaires supporting them. And they also have the entertainment industry and they have celebrities. And so, for him to go out swinging the way that he did, I felt it to be disingenuous and it was unfortunate.
I guess one thing that critics are bringing up is, does this potentially mean tax cuts for the mega rich? Some are suggesting even, are they going to be able to evade impunity? We're seeing investigations into Tesla, for example, also a lawsuit against Meta, antitrust case against Amazon. What do you think of that?
Well, it's not a surprise. I know they're not going to be able to evade it. The law is the law, and justice still needs to be served. And so, this is unfortunately what happens when you're catapulted into the public atmosphere, especially at this level. These individuals were already a target prior to now showing their outward support of the incoming administration. So I don't think that this is going to be anything new to them. I'm sure that they already have their attorneys ready to go. They probably deal with this on a day-to-day basis.
How do you think this relationship is going to impact Trump's reputation with the American public?
Well, I think his base and most of those who voted for him, they just want to know that things are moving in the right direction. They just want to know that business is being done, and they want to know that the economy is going to be taken care of, inflation is going to go down, that they're not going to be paying high taxes, that they're going to be able to put gas in their car, that the streets will be safe for their kids to ride their bikes on, and that at the end of the day that every home's needs are being met. I don't think it really matters to most voters at this point if you're dealing with someone of a certain socioeconomic tax bracket. They just want to know that their needs are going to be taken care of.
It's going to be interesting to see not just how Trump manages that relationship with these billionaires, but also how he manages that billionaire relationship with the rest of the MAGA cohort. So immigration, it's always been this signature issue of Trump's. But Musk, for example, he's been a firm advocate for the increase in skilled workers visas, which previously Trump did rally against, but now he seems to be kind of favoring it. How do you think that Trump's going to navigate that relationship?
Well, I'm actually a Republican who agrees with the H-1B1 visas. I think we should be enticing to bring in some of the best and brightest and smartest, most skilled workers. If they want to come in and assist and work here in the United States of America, I welcome that. I think it's fantastic. And actually, President Trump has already said publicly that he has used that program for himself and his businesses. And so I think, once again, I'll use the same terminology. It would be disingenuous and hypocritical of him to backpedal on that. And unfortunately, his base is going to have to they don't have to agree with everything that he puts forward. But I think it's better that he be honest and continue down that path.
And we saw Meta, they scrapped the third-party fact-checking, which some of the MAGA cohort, they classed it as biased. And Musk is obviously the owner of X. So Trump, he kind of has this potential political monopoly over social media platforms, for example. And I mean, it's no secret that Trump isn't a fan of mainstream media. He's denounced journalists as the enemy of the people. He's threatened to revoke broadcasting licenses for some channels. How do you think that Trump's relationship with these tech billionaires is going to influence not just the social media landscape, but also the mainstream media landscape in America?
Well, I think it's going to be vital. I think it's going to help make or break getting his messaging out in the way that he wants it to be relayed. And we actually saw that in the first term, where before any of these social media apps coming to his back, he did his first 100-day release on YouTube. So he didn't even share that with the mainstream networks. So he went above their heads and behind their backs. And I thought that that was brilliant. And so this time he's got more power at his fingertips and at mine and your fingertips. And people even on TikTok, are questioning, has Meta taken over TikTok? Who's taking over TikTok? Because they're seeing changes already from that minor shutdown that lasted for 10 to 12 hours, then to its return. And so I think the fact that he's now backpedaled on his views on TikTok is opening some eyes to individuals. So yes, he's going to have, I guess, as you call it, a monopoly of sorts. But Mark Zuckerberg said on a podcast recently, he claims that the Biden and Obama administrations put heavy amounts of pressure on Facebook to basically take down anything that was anti-vaccine, anti-COVID. And so now all of a sudden, he's feeling like he has the freedom to just let people post what they feel is best or what their actual opinions are. Now, I don't know, once again, if that's something of truth and he's now feeling, oh, free at last, I'm able to do whatever the heck it is that I wanted to do from the first place without having anyone breathe down my neck, or if it's just because he now doesn't want to have the retaliation of a very aggressive president. But either way, we are here and it's going to benefit, I believe, this incoming administration.
I mean, in terms of your comment about the anti-vaccine, anti-COVID content being cracked down on, as we saw in the past, a lot of that information was misinformation, which was dangerous for the health of the general public. As we saw Trump himself, he suggested injecting disinfectant as treatment to COVID, which again is not true. And so we need to have that degree of tackling misinformation and cracking down on misinformation, don't we?
Sure, and I don't disagree with that, but I think what a lot of people were alluding to was, and I was actually a victim of some of this. So before Elon purchased, which is now X, when it was Twitter, I had lost thousands of followers when they were clamping down on conservative accounts. And I had not posted anything crazy or outlandish or what would be considered far right. I was not put on any type of warning. And that also happened on Facebook a few times. And I actually, I ended up having to take the COVID vaccine so that way I could go visit my daughter overseas during the time. But it's something that unfortunately in this day and age where you've got AI, you've got all kinds of different avenues to misinform, because misinformation is accidental, but disinformation is intentional. And it's hard sometimes to tell the difference. You walk a fine line. And so I think the fact that this Trump administration has now announced that they're going to invest in AI infrastructure is going to be crucial. So then that way we can try to clamp down on some of this. Somebody like Elon Musk, as you mentioned, is he a politician? No. Should he be more careful because he is somebody who is watched like a hawk, and a lot of people actually do take everything that he says extremely serious? Yes, he should. I think it's irresponsible of somebody at that status to be so lackadaisical about some of the posts that they make. You and I, we're not at the same status as Elon Musk or President Trump or any a prime minister, but we do have a responsibility to try to at least relay to the public what we know to be true. And so, I think that people just need to be really cautious and make sure that they do their homework before they're reposting.
So we've covered a lot of ground there between this relationship between Trump and these tech billionaires. But the big question everyone's wondering is, how long is that relationship going to last? What do you think?
So that's a really hard question to answer because, as we've already seen a number of times, it's a pattern. When you are somebody, and it doesn't matter if you're a member of Congress, if you're a senator, if you're an attorney general, if you're somebody who has, campaigned alongside President Trump from day one, if you step outside of his thought process, if you question him publicly, then he will remove you from his inner circle. And he will not even think twice about lambasting you publicly. And so, I think that you're going to have a lot of egos. You're going to have a lot of strong personalities, especially, with people who are of that social status. And they're all going to have to learn how to navigate and walk a fine line and realize that if they all still want to be a part of this movement that they are all saying that they are wanting to do, they're going to have to realize that they still will be answering to President Trump in the end, even though the others may have more money and maybe a little bit more clout. But in the end, that's not how President Trump functions.
So you think this depends on Trump's terms then?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think is going to break first?
No, I'm not exactly sure. But, I think right now it's very clear that he's got them all lined like little ducks in a row, ready to follow whichever direction he heads.
I want to now hear your thoughts about Trump's pardoning of those involved in the Capitol riots, and Trump's calling these the J6 hostages, isn't he? And this includes 40 members of the far-right groups, Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. What did you think about that?
I was extremely disappointed. So in his first term, a number of us were actually very excited about having somebody who was considered an outsider come in. We all felt we finally had somebody in the Republican Party with a spine of steel, somebody who was going to come and fight on our behalf and shake things up. And then towards the end, it seemed that he continued to surround himself with grifters, people who were not having his goodwill, and it became chaotic, and it was extremely disappointing when January 6th happened, when he did not step up and vocalize for people to stop in a timely manner. So, to see that he did this pardon in a blanket fashion was very disheartening. I think the fact that you had people that were there that did cause damage to the building, did cause damage to other individuals. But you also had people that maybe just got caught up, people who were maybe guilty by association that just happened to be in the crowd, maybe hadn't entered the building. I think they should have really taken a good hard look and done a case-by-case situation rather than a blanket pardon, because you mentioned the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, and those people have caused irreparable damage in more ways than one. Now, should they have been sentenced, for maybe as long as they had been? That's not up to me to decide. And I think that maybe some of them may have been a little excessive, as they're claiming. But to do a blanket pardon like that, I thought, did not send a very good precedent. Now, on the other hand, you've got that, and then you also had outgoing President Biden. Okay, we can't ignore that either. He did a preventative pardon for his entire family. And then he also threw in a separate pardon, people like Dr. Fauci for spreading not just misinformation, but disinformation that people claim that, we still wanted to do investigating on that. And now he's not allowing that to happen. So I think you had two individuals who abused this power of being able to pardon, which should have been, when you do a pardon, it's to absolve someone of their guilt and to give them a second chance. And I think this was just disgusting on both men's, on both of their sides.
I guess on Biden's part, people, on Biden's part though, some of those family members, they hadn't committed anything. He said it's a preventative because it's almost as if he feels scared or threatened about how Trump might act next. Do you think that it's fair that he did that?
No, I don't, because it's abusing the pardon. It's a pardon is strictly if you are guilty. That is it. And so, right there, that just opens up a whole can of worms to people questioning, well, why would you feel? Why would you feel that you would need to do that if there truly is not 1 ounce of guilt? If they didn't do one thing wrong, what are you afraid of? And so you had somebody such as, former Congressman Adam Kinzinger. He turned it down, because he has nothing to hide. And I think that this was really, really bad and set a terrible precedent for future pardons.
What reputational impact might that have on the American people? You've got people who obviously are big supporters of Trump doing this, but on the other hand, you have people who completely disagreed with him and didn't vote for him at the election. But then you also have people who wanted to vote for Trump because they didn't like what Harris had to offer. They didn't like how the Democrats had acted in the last 4 years, but perhaps they didn't agree with the Capitol riots itself. For that target group, how do you think it's going to impact them?
Well, I mean, we're going to have to move forward, whether if you like it or agree with it or not. And it's his prerogative as president. It's your prerogative to pick and choose. And so, we did see the Fraternal Order of Police, which is one of the organizations that supported President Trump. They put out a letter, basically reprimanding the president's blanket pardon. And so, basically saying that, we need to protect our own. We need to protect the police. We need to respect the police. And this was, kind of a slap in the face. But once again, I was not happy with it. That was a situation. That was a major event that I felt turned a number of individuals who had once supported him and gave him grace and gave him the benefit of the doubt in a number of other areas, that just said enough is enough. And so this set a really bad precedent and put a real sour note, I think, for the start of this incoming term. He has so many other executive orders that people are ready to move forward with that are going to take some time, and there's going to be uphill battles with. I just don't think this one was very well thought out.
Amy, thank you so much for joining me on the Trump Report today.
Thank you for having me.